Good day, fantasy followers. My name is Derek. Happy Halloween weekend to all, as you can tell by Taylor's shirt. Very festive.
You just catch the eyes.
Just thought that's all we need. It's just
Yeah.
these little pumpkin eyes, just like that's it. That's what
Just
we're gonna
peering
get.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's little creepy, but what else what would be Halloween weekend be without some sort of creepy, spooky? Taylor,
Yeah.
how you doing? How's your week been?
Not too shabby. Kind of not too much going on until today. Just a little Halloween festivities, hence the shirt. And then I realized I might as well keep it on since this will be our Halloween episode. Not
Yeah,
that I
I mean we're
planned
not.
any music to throw in here. I don't know if you did.
No, I did not. I did.
Yeah.
I have zero, no music. I probably should pull something up now that you say it, but I don't have anything on deck really. So let me
We'll
see
be
if
right back.
we'll be right back. Here we go. Here, I got one for you. Play this. Oh, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. It never works that way. All right. Anyway, this is a Fantasy Flyer episode 16. We're already at episode 16, which means it must be week 8.
Yes.
Yeah. So Taylor, lead us off. Go ahead with our usual 9 segment. It's another slightly longer. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I
You
didn't
want to
even
kick it
read the
off with the
show
four
plan. We're
downs?
gonna do the 4 downs. See, this is why we have a show plan, so I cannot read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was weird. All right. So 4 downs. I'll let you go first. How about that?
Sure. Down number 1.
All right.
Khalil Herbert finishes the season with more fantasy points than David Montgomery. And I don't know if it's cheating. I'll give you half point PPR.
I know what our league is. He's at 93 for Herbert and 72 for David Montgomery. Because I just did a trade. The only reason I know that, so it's not like I sit down and memorize the board. I just did a trade with the person who has both of those, and I was looking, and I traded for a running back. So
Okay.
that's the only reason why I did that just on Wednesday. So
Yeah, I mean, in half point PPR, Khalil is at 80, Montgomery is at 59. Montgomery only missed 1 week, week 4,
right.
which was the week that, no, it wasn't. Herbert had almost 30 in week 3, which maybe Montgomery went
That was
down
when
that week.
that was
Yeah,
when he went out. He went out
Yeah.
very early in that game against
That's
the
right.
Texans, and it was Khalil Herbert who had like 170 yards.
So essentially, Montgomery has missed 2 weeks. So there's like a little bit of a cheating there. But anyways, just for your information there. Down number 2, Geno finishes as a top 10 QB. Obviously in fantasy world. This is a little Patriots one here. Devontae Parker finishes above Jacoby Myers. And then down number 4, Josh Jacobs finishes above Nick Chubb at the end of the season. These are all basically end of season stuff.
So I'm gonna say most likely is Geno Smith top 10. Well, that's close with Jacobs because Jacobs absolutely bowling the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks. No, because you know what? During that time, Nick Chubb hasn't been bad. He's just been average. Like his last 2 weeks, he's had less than 100 rushing yards. So I'm gonna say Geno top 10 is my most likely. I also don't think I hate their strength of schedule from here out, so I like that. But then it's kind of, you know what? I'm gonna swap those because Kenny Walker is just gonna end up getting more and more of the ball. So I'm gonna put Jacobs ahead of Chubb as 1. Geno top 10, number 2. It's Montgomery and Herbert, and what was the other one?
Devontae Parker finishes above Jacoby Myers.
That one's last. So I'll put Khalil Herbert over Montgomery, and that one actually is close for 2 because he keeps getting passing downs. So I would say Jacobs over Chubb 1. I'll say Smith in the top 10 for 2. Herbert over Montgomery 3, and Parker over Myers is my least likely.
I like that. Honestly, the top 2 easy, very easy to flip flop. But yeah, I definitely like sort of the way you progress through that and your logic.
Yeah, it's rough. Um. Okay, so for my 4 downs, down number 1, Josh Jacobs will be a top 3 running back this season. Down number 2, Mac Jones will not be a Patriot after Tuesday.
Okay.
Down number 3, Rashad Penny will not be a Seahawk after November 1st, Tuesday. Or down number 4, the Bucks will trade for O-line help by Tuesday.
Okay. There we go.
That's Little Halloween Town. That's
Yeah.
old Disney theme for everybody. Go ahead. Sorry. I was gonna play it in the background, but I'm not gonna do that.
All right, so hands down, Jacobs is my most likely.
Yeah, I feel like that was an easy one. I set you up for that one.
And then, I mean, if I'm the Bucks, I don't know. So what are they? They're now 3-5 after last night.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a chance in that division. So I don't know. Yeah, they're not going to throw in the towel. I think I would put the Bucks trade for some O-line help as second most likely because they like if I'm any sort of coach manager on that team, I don't see how they're not trying to do that. And then Rashad Penny will not be a Seattle Seahawk by the deadline, and
If
Mac
they can even
Jones.
trade for him. If they can
Yeah,
even, he's injured. I don't even know if you can do that. I've seen it happen, I feel like, but I don't know. He's on IR, so I doubt it. But
right. And then Mac Jones will not be a Pat as my least likely. I
it
we
seems that way.
Yeah, I mean,
It seems like he will probably be a Patriot because that's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is a fan of playing him until he makes mistakes and then punishing him by playing really badly.
yeah, we chatted about this obviously in our league chat, but like, and I don't remember how much I said in our show, but I just don't see why they pulled him. It did not make sense to me. I know we've said, and from what we've seen, that Zappy has actually looked decent and made the offense better than Jones, but I think overall Jones is the better talent, and I think that they
Right.
should have, like, yeah, he made a mistake, but you're not going to build his confidence, build the team's confidence around him by pulling him like that. It just made no sense to me.
Right. And yeah, like you have to what we were talking about in the group, or what we were, I guess, we were posited with, what we were pressured about, is that, and it's very true, is that you have to let Mac Jones kind of get through this rut, this stage that he's in,
Mhm.
if you can even call it that. Because he kind of came back from injury and was just blindsided with the fact that like he couldn't even defend himself on the field, so to speak. So he deserves that right. And he's played very, very, very well. So, yeah, good 4 down segment. I'm gonna let you take over for the 9 because it's a fairly chunky one. Real heads up, Tuesday's show will be about 25% real football talk. We're gonna go through the games that are important or matter. I think this is a good set of games where we don't have to watch over all of them. We're gonna do a kind of big express lane, and then for roughly a third of the show, we're gonna talk about some of the trades that happened or didn't happen, and go over more of we're going to have an expanded 9, I guess would be the correct way to do it. So that's going to be our trade deadline show for Tuesday. But for now, I'll let you take it away with our 9 segment, our news, injury notes, etc.
Yeah, so we'll kick it off with some players to watch as we approach the deadline here. Kareem Hunt, whose usage has really dropped off. It seems like a very good candidate to be moved away from Cleveland since they're not using him, and he's a very talented guy. I don't see why somebody wouldn't want to try to get him going in their offense if they're hurting in a running back area. Brandon Cooks, usage on that team has been all over the place this season. He's usually pretty solid despite bad quarterbacks. There's a lot of teams that could use some wide receiver help, and he is a very underrated wide receiver. Elijah Moore, this one, it seems to go back and forth. He wants out. They don't want to let him go. We'll see what happens there. Bradley Chubb. I didn't read too much about this one, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you've read any, but basically it seems like if
they lose,
yeah,
they're
if
gonna
they
try and
lose,
trade it.
they're
And
exactly.
we both disagree that matters at all. That's a complete front.
Yeah.
Complete front.
Yeah. And then also with Denver, there's been talks of Jerry Judy. I also saw some people rumor KJ Hamler, since he would be cheaper to acquire. And then obviously the stuff with Cam Akers and the Rams, he wants out. It seems like he's not getting along with McVay or vice versa. And yeah, that's just, they're very much open to it at this point. Kendrick Bourne of my Patriots, they have plenty of other receivers. They don't really, I like
They don't
him,
need him.
but they don't need him.
Get a sixth round pick and move on.
Yeah, exactly. Just get something for him. AJ Green,
Get
this
a sixth
one's
round pick and move on.
exactly this one. Yeah, like he
I
could
don't know if
help a
honestly,
team, but
I don't know if he's going to go anywhere. I don't know if either of those guys are going to go anywhere. I don't see any holes at wide receiver that are, with a lot of teams that are depth heavy.
right. AJ Green is really sort of tapering off. Not unfortunately, he's had a great career, but I don't know how many teams are going to want / need him, at least what he is now. But he can still do some stuff, as we've seen. So who knows? Maybe. I've also seen a couple, and this isn't in our docs. I've seen a couple mentions of Chase Claypool, but I've also seen anywhere
They
that it's
want.
mentioned that they don't want to let him go.
Oh, they're asking a steep price for him. From what I read
Okay.
today, it said it's a second round pick, and
Yeah.
I would rather take the second round pick.
Right.
So I'd rather keep it anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, keep an eye on those guys, or if you think something's going to happen there, maybe snag one if they're available, in anticipation of them going somewhere that's more beneficial from a fantasy perspective. Reminder, week 8 buys, Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers. All right, injury news. James Conner ribs continues to be out, so fire up, Benjamin. There is talk of Daryl Williams being questionable and possibly coming back, but even still, I wouldn't put too much into that. I would still stick with Eno. Atlanta, Caleb Huntley, whose production has actually, or usage has actually been going down in favor of Tyler Algier. He had an illness, and it seems like he's actually trending in the right direction, but still,
What? Are you broke?
well then, gotta
What
love
was
the
that?
headset cutting out.
Oh, I'm like, you froze. I was literally like,
No, I'm just over here trying to turn it back on.
okay.
Where were we? Caleb Huntley, Tyler Algier. Yeah, so Algier, just more usage for him probably. Carolina, Chuba Hubbard out, so Deonta Foreman will get a huge workload from the running back perspective there. This one really stinks. Jamar Chase is out. His hip, apparently, the quote is will miss time. So Higgins, Boyd, Hayden Hurst. I mean, everybody gets a bump.
4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks is what you're saying? Okay, wow. Yeah, that really stinks.
IR is possible, which honestly, at that point,
Yeah, if 4 weeks is the minimum, I don't see why not.
we'll talk a little more about that when we get to the Monday night game.
Yeah. And also on the same team, Hayden Hurst, groin ankle injuries. He is questionable, was a limited participant Friday. Moving on to Cleveland, David Njoku continues to be out with his ankle injury. I think we said when we first came on this that it was like 2 to 6 weeks, or maybe now it's like 4 to 6 weeks, whatever. He's out, so
it sucks, honestly. It's bad for
I know.
that pass
Yeah.
attack.
And the other tight end there, Farrell Brown, is questionable with he's in the concussion protocols. So Harrison Bryant may be someone to stream this week. Moving on to Dallas, Zeke, knee, thigh, he is doubtful. It seems like he's not expected to play this Sunday, so Tony Pollard will get a huge bump in usage. And I think they actually have a pretty good matchup this week, so he should have pretty good fantasy output. Dalton Schultz, his knee is he's questionable. Noah Brown, foot, questionable. Denver, Russell Wilson, not on the injury report, expected to start. This is funny. I don't know if you heard this, but he was apparently working out on the plane ride over to London. It's like an 8-hour ride. Apparently the first 2 hours he was like watching video, and then the next 4 hours he was like stretching and doing high knees up and down the aisle. Like players are trying to sleep. I don't know. This dude, he just continues to get more and more interesting, but whatever. Good,
Imagine doing all those high knees to lose in London by 17.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but if he does, that's really bad. It's good that they're going to have him back. I mean, that's the first game we'll talk about when we get to the preview, but I'm actually kind of excited to see Russell Wilson back in this matchup.
Yeah. And I continue to hold out hope that he turns things around because it has not been great. Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown, concussion protocols. He is questionable, but I think is trending towards playing. DeAndre Swift off the injury report, and Jameson Williams. They just a note here that they're expecting at least another 4 more weeks, so don't expect him anytime soon. But within that timetable, if he's on your waivers, you might start thinking about snagging him if you can hold on, if you're capable of keeping him on your bench for a week or two once we start approaching the end of this 4-week window here. Green Bay, Alan Lazard, shoulder is out. Christian Watson, hamstring is questionable. I don't know what they're going to do other than give Aaron Jones the ball. Houston, Brandon Cooks, wrist, he's actually questionable. Nico Collins, groin, didn't practice Friday. He is also questionable. Kansas City, who we mentioned, is on a bye. Trade news here. They acquired Kadarius Toney from the New York Giants for a conditional 3rd and a 6th round pick. I mean, Toney is a very talented player when he's out there, but man, is he riddled with injuries.
Well,
Hopefully,
that's part of the what's come to the forefront through this is that he said he hasn't been injured for a couple weeks. They just haven't been.
I did
playing.
hear something about him throwing up on Twitter that he was healthy, and then then he had to take it down, or he took it down within I don't know how many minutes after that. So that's interesting.
He never went on IR. I know up until the beginning of the week he was saying he had a hamstring injury, that he tweaked his right hamstring while his left was healing or something like that, or I don't know. The good news for this is it doesn't matter because Kansas City's on bye. So they traded for him, and he's still going to get a full week of practice in so long as he's actually able to go back on the field. I assume he is. And he becomes the most interesting wide receiver to me in that group.
Yeah, I mean, they've been using Juju a lot, and he's been meshing decently with Mahomes. So
Juju and Hardman are free agents at the end of the year.
Right.
So that leads me to believe that by trading for Toney, they want Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, and Kelsey, which is just lightning speed everywhere but the middle, and then just hit you in the face with Travis Kelsey. So I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. You never know. There's a lot of time between now and next season.
Right.
But I think Toney becomes the most interesting piece of that, so long as he does stay healthy, because there was a real injury.
Yeah, definitely a good dynasty. Like in dynasty, that's awesome for him. We'll see how it plays out this season, but it could be good. Las Vegas, a handful of questionable people here. Mac Hollins, heel, Devontae Adams, illness, Darren Waller, hamstring are all questionable. Adams returned to limited practice Friday. Waller practiced limited capacity all week. So seems like they are both trending in the right direction. Los Angeles Chargers, who are on bye, as we mentioned. Mike Williams, unfortunately, with his high ankle sprain, is likely out for 4 weeks, so IR is very possible there. JC Jackson, his kneecap injury, they placed him on IR. I don't know a timetable for him, but that definitely hurts their backfield there. Not that he was having a phenomenal year, but he is a good DB. Los Angeles Rams, Van Jefferson, who's been on IR with a knee injury, is coming off of IR and apparently will play Sunday. So if you had, I don't even remember this guy's name, Scourneck
Ben
or whatever.
Skowronek, yeah.
Yeah. If you had him, he was doing some stuff every once in a while. Van Jefferson's kind of a boomer bust guy that'll probably take over for him. It may also affect Allen Robinson, who's had 1.5 good weeks. We'll see. Cam
Can't hurt him
Akers,
that much.
right? Yeah. Cam Akers, I'll put this in air quotes, personal, continues to be out.
Whatever.
Yeah, New England, Mac Jones is starting. Nelson Aguilar hamstring. He's questionable practice in a limited capacity all week. New Orleans, Andy Dalton named the starter, even though Wilson is healthy. Wilson will be active and he will be the backup. Michael Thomas, toe, Jarvis Landry, ankle, they are both out. Juwan Johnson, hamstring, and Adam Troutman, ankle, they are both questionable. I have a little note here, Taysom Hill smash. If they're out, holy crap. I don't know what other tight ends they have besides those three that I would be willing to play. So if they're both out, Taysom Hill may be a good play. New York Jets, Corey Davis, knee injury, he is out. So more Garrett Wilson could see an uptick, especially with Brees Hall out. And honestly, like the Michael Carter play, since he is involved in the receiving aspect of the running game, also see an uptick. Philadelphia, another trade. They acquire Robert Quinn from Chicago for a 4th-round pick. San Francisco, man, this one stings. Deebo Samuel hamstring is out. Not that he's been having the greatest season, but he's still been viable the majority of the time, and you drafted him highly. So that really stinks. Seattle, both their top wide receivers, DK Metcalf and Lockett, are questionable. Lockett with a knee injury, or sorry, Metcalf with a knee injury, returned to limited practice on Friday, considered a game time. Actually, they're both considered a game time decision. It doesn't say whether or not Lockett, what his sort of practice ebb and flow was throughout the week. Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, ankle questionable, didn't practice Friday, which obviously is not what you want to see. There wasn't much I read beyond that, so Malik Willis could be starting on Sunday. And then finally, Washington, Jahan Dotson hamstring is out. Logan Thomas, calf, Diami Brown, groin are both questionable.
A lot of 9.
Yeah.
Awful lot of 9. All right, we're gonna go on to our Thursday night review. Ravens and the Bucks. Where do we start with this one? The Bucks. Yeah, I think the Bucks gave one away here.
Yeah, they started off decent. They started off decent.
They moved downfield a couple times, and then all of a sudden they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Ravens got it done without Mark Andrews, which is impressive. He left in the second quarter.
It was relatively early, yeah.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely, huge game after that. Gus Edwards left. Kenyon Drake had a solid game. Devin Duvernay had a very good game. The only question I really have is who's running the ball. Is it Drake or Edwards? Because before Edwards left, Drake was in for the first, I think, 8 or 9 plays of the game. No Edwards at all. So I don't know what's happening with that backfield.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's
I
hard to trust.
right. I couldn't tell if it was like a hot hand or if they were trying to be like Drake being more of a receiving back. I don't know if they were that was just the plays they went with. Because it seemed like when they did move to Edwards, he was running the ball decently, and then they kind of stuck with him for a while until
Yeah.
he went out. So yeah, I don't know if it was a hot hand approach or if it was just the game plan and plays that they were picking.
It kind of worked for the most part. I mean, they ended up getting back in it. Lamar Jackson, I don't think threw for a whole heck of a lot.
No,
238,
238.
27 for 38, 238, 2 touchdowns, had 9 rushes for 43 yards. Isaiah Likely 6 for 7, 77 yards and a touchdown. Gus Edwards had 65 yards on the ground before he left. Kenyon Drake had 7 carries for 62 yards. Was also 4 for 4 in the air. Only had 5 yards, but did catch the touchdown. Jamarcus Robinson 6 for 8 with 64 yards. Devin Duvernay, one of my acquisitions this week, I immediately plugged and played in the lineup. Well, that worked out. 4 for 4, 31 yards, 2 rushes for 33 yards, and a rushing touchdown. For Tampa Bay, which I think is the big story of this, I picked Tampa Bay to win this, and they looked like they had something going, and then they didn't. It was bad. Brady 26 for 44, 325 yards and a touchdown. I've never seen someone throw so much, like get 300 plus yards on a consistent basis, and the team loses by so much.
I
Like they
know.
only lost by 5 here. They could have easily lost by 15, and he still would have 325 yards. Maybe that's because Fournette's not running it successfully at all. I'm so glad I traded him away at the end of the year last year. Fournette 9 carries for 24 yards. He had a touchdown, red zone carry, clutch. 3 for 3 on catches for 34 yards.
Yeah.
Godwin and Evans both 6 for 11. Godwin had 75 yards. Evans with 123. Both of them had big chunk plays, and I just don't like they get these chunk plays and then they stall like so often, and it's so bad. I don't know if it's the O line. Like the O line's bad, right? But like we have to start addressing the possibility that Tom Brady's making poor decisions.
So there was a couple things I noticed. So Brady's getting the ball out super quick on a good majority of plays, which I think is to our point that we've been saying all season. The O line's not great, so he's trying to get rid of the ball earlier.
Right.
There's definitely a level of outside of Evans and Godwin, him just not being on the same timing with players that he's not excuse me used to. So, and honestly, I saw a play with Evans where they were just not on the same page. So, yeah, I don't know if some of that's Brady, if some of that's the players, or if I don't know why everybody's out of sync, but there's a lot of out of sync, a lot of mistimed throws and not turning the direction that he was expecting them to, stuff like that. But this is the first game that I actually got to watch Brady a bit, and he actually seems fine. I mean, he had 325 yards, like you said, and threw the ball a ton, but it, they just can't really score. I mean, this is one of their higher scoring games, so
At 20,
they need
right
to learn
at
how to
22.
capitalize. Yeah, and like the young tight end that I've been sort of propping up, Cade Otton. They went to him one time in the end zone. He caught it, but then there was penalties. That was another thing. They had a bunch of penalties,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that led to some unfortunate outcomes. So yeah, they can't capitalize in the red zone, and that's really hurting them.
I'm I'm not I wouldn't be surprised if this gets better in like 2 weeks time, because I think now that I think that honestly to me there's at least a part of this for Brady that's personal because of his what's going on off the field,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, score wise,
Too damn long. I'm just tired of losing.
for the most part, their scores are trending in the right direction. Like they continue to score more and more. Now they have all their pieces back, so I am hoping that they will turn things around, but there's there's a little bit of funkiness going on with the team and as a whole.
It's that's being nice about
Yeah.
it. That's being super nice about it.
I want a divorce.
Yeah. That's absolutely perfect. Not impressed with the Bucks. I'm just being honest. It's just it's worse. Yeah, Baltimore takes on New Orleans in Week 9. Tampa Bay takes on the Rams at home. I'm honestly, they both have some growth to do, but the Bucks just look so bad. Oh man. Hopefully Mark Andrews is going to be ready for that Baltimore game. Hopefully Tampa Bay is ready for that Tampa Bay game. I think we're going to take a break here. We got a couple minutes left in this section, but we're going to take a break. We're going to cut through the Week 8 preview. When we come back, we're going to hit all of the host v host matchups this week. We're going to give you the 5 fantasy flyers to wrap up the show. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Taylor, take us out. Take us out, would you?
See you on the flip.
And welcome back to part 2 of the Fantasy Flyer, episode 16. We're going to start going into our Week 8 preview, take on some of the fantasy aspects from this week. We'll start off with the 9:30 a.m. London game. Well, it's 9:30 here. It's like 3:30 over there, or whatever. Denver at Jacksonville. Denver 2-5. Jacksonville 2-5. Jacksonville 2.5-point favorites. The over/under is 40.5. We already talked about Wilson starting. Hopefully that'll help some way, shape, form this offense. They looked atrocious last week against the Jets. Jets offense looked atrocious against Denver. Wasn't a great game. Denver has the fewest amount of touchdowns through 8 games. They have 7. It's bad. Yeah, not good. Not good. The next lowest team is 10, which doesn't sound much better, but that is 14 more points. So
Yeah.
that's, and the Broncos have scored less than 14 points in 2 games.
I know.
There you go. Rushing, I mean, this should be a good opportunity for whoever carries the ball to do something. Jaguars allow 110 yards per game on the ground. Load. I really am starting to trust Latavius Murray over Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon seems to be a little bit more trustworthy in the passing downs, but I think Murray has the touchdowns too. So it's rough to argue against Latavius Murray as far as that goes. Jacksonville is 4-4 in London games. Denver is 0-2. However, Russell Wilson is 1-0. So a little bit of flight overseas record keeping for you. Both teams are on 4-game losing streaks, not streets. I mean, they're on losing streak too, but obviously one of them is going to end this week, or maybe it won't. Maybe we'll have a tie. Bonus football in there for an entire 15 minutes of boring overtime. I think I like Denver more in this one. Jacksonville seems like they're all over the place all of a sudden. I don't know. The Denver defense is solid. What we've seen Trevor Lawrence do and throw for 300 yards may be tough. Denver only allows 174 yards per game in passing attacks. And Denver's rush defense is actually their biggest problem, and I'll air quote that because they're 15th yards allowed per game. Is that correct? Rush yards per game, yes. And Travis Etienne is the entire backfield to himself now with the departure of James Robinson. So I'm starting Etienne. I'm going to sit Marvin Jones. Honestly, Christian Kirk isn't really pleasant to play.
No.
Doesn't seem like it. If you're going to end up, this defense seems to be somewhat solid. And obviously, if it's not that solid and they lose, Bradley Chubb will get traded. So it'll get worse. I don't know. Anything else for you from this one? I like Denver in this one. I know Jacksonville's favored 2.5 points. I like the addition of Dulcich and what he's done to the offense. I like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy have just been Sutton and Jeudy-ish. And then it's the run game. So I don't have really much to say. I trust, for some reason, I feel warm, and I have this warm, successful feeling inside about what Russell Wilson this week, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. And I say this a lot. On paper, I would definitely like Denver, especially their defense. But there is something I can't put my finger on as to why I am favoring Russell and Denver despite their horrendous season so far. That being said, Jacksonville plays a lot in London. They opt for it. I think they like want to move to London, so I don't know if if there is a fan base because of that, and if that will help in any way. But I think Denver's defense is the deciding or the tipping point here.
Makes sense to me. Next game, Bears at the Cowboys. Another 1 o'clock start in Dallas. Dallas 10-point favorites, over under 42.5. Usually for a 10-point favorite, you see something in the higher 40s for like an over under. So this, like, they're just picking the Bears to not score. Like at a 10-point over under, you're at 26-16.
Yeah, I mean Dallas's defense is good, but it's almost like Vegas has not seen what Fields has done the past 2 games, especially last game.
All right.
They've figured something out here. I do think that Dallas should win this with Dak back, but I think this should hit the over.
That's 50-50 for me. I don't know about the over. I don't know. I'm just being honest. Bears defense isn't anything to sniffle at either.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
although they did trade away Robert Quinn, so it is going to be a little weaker on the left side, which is probably really where the hole is for Dallas. So I don't know. I'm sure that's not what they were thinking when they traded him. They just get the pick and whatnot. But Cowboys offense, this is really a game for them to hop back into normalcy. I'm going to be air quoting a lot, so someone might catch on to all of the air quotes I'm doing in the wrong spot. Chicago's defense has to have that different look with Quinn. I like the run game a lot more for Pollard now. I feel like that front seven for them is going to space a little more without Robert Quinn, because you have to cover space. You have to fix the holes that, I mean, he was there. He had 18.5 sacks last year. Like he's a big body to fill.
Yeah.
Fields, like you mentioned, has great momentum from the last couple of weeks. He's been impressive. They design plays around what he can do instead of making him try and do things he can't. Dallas defense is 4th in the NFL. Chicago's offense is 24th in the league. The one thing that I think it's kind of interesting is if Dallas is 1st in QB pressures, 1st in sacks, 3rd in hurry percentage, if Justin Fields can move though,
Right.
and we saw what happened with Jalen Hurts, mobile quarterbacks, if they stay mobile, find some sort of success. So, granted, there's a lot more tools in Philadelphia than Chicago, but I don't like. I think honestly the Bears cover in this one, because I know my Cowboys, and whenever they're favored by this much, they never win by that much. Just being honest. I'll take the Cowboys still winning, but I think it's going to be close to like 4 or 6.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the 10 is too big and the Bears should cover that.
Yeah. The only exception to that is if like Pollard breaks out for like 175 yards and Dak throws for 3 touchdowns, and then without having some help, the Bears aren't scoring 30 points again. So
Yeah.
I also will go on a prop bet. Jaquan Brisker has an interception in this game. He seems to be very good for a rookie. He's a very good safety. I'm going to start Komet and Pollard, of course. I put sit for Elliott, but that was before he was downgraded to doubtful. I don't think there's anyone I really want to sit otherwise. Mooney seems okay. I mean, you can say Pettis and St. Brown, but you should have a better flyer than that. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else. Noah Brown, if he plays, maybe, but he seemed to get some targets with Dak back. So I don't really have anybody that I'm like, can't play.
Well, how are you feeling about Gallup? He hasn't done too much so far.
Yeah, but neither's Dak.
Yeah.
Dak had 204 yards, and 80 of them went to CeeDee Lamb, and 50 of them went to Dalton Shelton. So
yeah, I'm just looking at his snap percentages for Gallup. He's basically like 60 plus, high 60s. He's just not getting the targets yet. But yeah, to your point, I think Dak needs to really get his groove back.
yeah. You threw off my groove. I wish I had the audio clip for that, 'cause that'd be perfect. Moving along, Steelers and Eagles. This one we should kind of blow through. Pickett has a tough test. Somehow this game, the Eagles are only 10.5-point favorites, but Dallas is only 10-point favorites over Chicago. Isn't that odd? And the over-under for this game is 43 as well. Freiermuth has been like a favorite target for Pickett, should continue. Like the one spot where the Eagles seem to like kind of let things slide is to the tight end. So Pittsburgh has to pressure Hurts, focus on limiting him. And you're fighting a losing battle really, because it's Jalen Hurts. He'll run for 15 yards or he'll throw for 30. Philadelphia is coming off the bye. They're rested. I think they have a fairly good chance to win with or without mistakes. I just don't see. This is a game where I think Philly can cover the 10.5.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with the Bills. The Bills were up 2 touchdowns and they blew them away. I think Philadelphia's defense is going to make Kenny Pickett. We've seen Kenny Pickett get mobile, where he's going to have to do it again. He ain't no Justin Fields. He ain't no Jalen Hurts. He ain't no Lamar Jackson. So, especially if you add in Robert Quinn, which is, I don't know if he'll play as much this week, getting to know the playbook and whatnot, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong, Kenny Pickett, if he's not careful. Let's just say that. It's the only way that he's going to get keep the drives going as well, too, though. That's what I feel. I don't know. I don't like playing Pickens. The deep ball for this, Philadelphia's taken away the deep ball so much. The secondary for them is it's tender. It's juicy. I love it.
I think Freiermuth is really the only piece from the Steelers that I would consider playing.
That sounds fair. I'm with that. My start is Sanders because of the game script, but that could really be wrong too, because they can run any of the 95 other people that they can run. Like, next thing you know, Greg Ward's going to make a return and run for 15 yards. You can definitely start AJ Brown. The secondary for Pittsburgh is bad in coverage. Like I said, I'm going to sit Pickens, taking on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, Darius Slay, but I want no part of that. Actually, almost brings Deontay Johnson into like a more preferable spot. Actually, it is a more preferable spot for me, but obviously, if you don't have that choice. And I think the Eagles cover. Anything else for this one?
No, I mean, I would play most of the Eagles.
Yeah, that's about, and hopefully hit the right one.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to do well and somebody's going to do meh.
Yeah.
Panthers and Falcons. This is the very first.
It's time to do
we host games. Carolina 4-point favorites, over under 41. The winner of this game is the leader of the NFC South. NFC South. Sorry, NFC South. That's exactly what I said. You pictures or it didn't happen. Panthers will be starting PJ Walker. As a stream option, can you trust that?
Against the Falcons?
22nd. Yeah, Atlanta's secondary
so.
is ranked 22nd in coverage and in yards allowed.
I think so. Against the Falcons, I don't know if trust is the right word, but I would consider it.
Okay. DJ Moore.
I think
he's a lock and load.
I think you have to. Like, what else do they have?
I didn't picture that those being words that came out of my mouth when PJ Walker took over for Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, is a healthy secondary now. He's a second healthy QB2.
Yep.
Sam Darnold is due back any week now. That'll be the most interesting piece for PJ Walker, which I would hope they'd play Darnold, because you traded your life for, like, they traded so much, a second, a fourth, and a sixth, I think, for Darnold. Like, you have to kind of play Sam Darnold, I think.
I think he did better with the team last year. I guess the only thing that's weird to me is, like, I thought Baker was a better quarterback, and he seemed to win the job in the preseason or whatever. But like in camp, I don't know why that was. Seeing what we've seen from him and seeing what we saw from Darnold last year.
Yeah, well, Baker seems to be the person who wins the job, and then it's like, well, you lied on your application, sir. Um, we talked about Chuba Hubbard being out for this one. All aboard the Foreman train. He had 118 yards last week, 100 and some yards.
Something like that, yeah.
He'll probably do it again. This is a game where the Panthers could possibly beat the Falcons at their own game because Marcus Mariota has not got this offense moving the last 2 weeks. If you take away, I think we talked about Tuesday's show, you take away the 75-yard touchdown to Demir Bird, and this offense is atrocious, bad against Cincinnati. Hopefully they do a little better here. There is no one on this Atlanta team that's fantasy trustworthy except for Tyler Algier. If Chase Huntley sits, Caleb Huntley, Chase Huntley, Christian Huntley,
Caleb.
whatever. Caleb Huntley. You said it earlier, and I was like, I feel like all of those names are wrong and right at the same time. Yeah, Foreman is probably the only person that's flyer worthy for me out of this. I'm not Tyler. No, like if it's not Tyler Algier, I want nothing with the Falcons. They've become the Bears that from week 1 to 3 for me. Again, just the team I want to stay away from until they switch some things.
Mm-hmm.
If they're giving up 20 points a game, they lose. Like, not good. London,
Yeah.
Drake London is down to 6.3 targets per game. Do you remember in week 3 when we said he had a 41% target share?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually still almost true. That's how little Marcus Mariota is throwing the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I don't know, ugly. Marvin Jones and Chase Claypool also have roughly six targets a game. So good thing he's a rookie because otherwise he would be on a lot of waivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, start Deontay Foreman, sit everyone from Atlanta. Anything for you? I this is a game where I feel like I have to take the Panthers and I don't want to. Like I literally like it's the diaper rash of football choices. I don't know any other way to put it. The sunburn of game picks. I don't know. There's so much going wrong here, but
Yeah.
and that's why I chose it. A, it's two teams we haven't played in host v host, and B, it's like, do you really want to choose either of these teams? No, but you have to.
Right.
Man,
Carolina's favored and is at home for the Falcons, that says a lot.
well, yeah, that says exactly what we said. This offense doesn't move. They sit in the backfield and sing kumbaya instead of playing football. Yeah, all right. Carolina. I'm just vomited my mouth writing that. Carolina. I'm gonna take Carolina in this. Yeah. Oh God. I'm gonna take 22-14 Carolina.
Okay. I went back and forth on how much Atlanta would score here. I actually have Carolina 26, Atlanta 21, and I feel like I'm gonna be kicking myself when we see the results, but I mean,
you went over
Carolina,
it.
I did. First off, Carolina actually played decently last week, and Atlanta's
Against
don't
an
have
offense that moves the ball.
right. So I guess the reason I sort of went to that level was just neither of these defenses are great. And I would
Well,
hope that Atlanta really made some changes because we've seen Mariota do some decent stuff. We've seen London do some decent stuff. So
right.
they know how to get it done. They're just, I don't know what changed, or Cordero Patterson being gone. I don't know.
Well, that shouldn't be the whole anchor for their team. We all know that.
Right.
Like that's the sad part of Carolina or of Atlanta is that they one person left and the entire offense stalled basically. I don't. Real quick, I'm looking for it. Panthers allow 120.9 yards per game on the rushing, and I'm gonna real quick anchor that. That is 13th in the league. And I'm real quick looking for the Falcons because I kind of want to know, and I can't find them. Where are the Falcons? Yeah, they give up 100.3 on the ground, which I don't think is really the focus for the Panthers anyway. So, yeah, I got your score down. We're gonna have to talk about that again on Tuesday. Rough. Um, moving along, Dolphins at the Lions. Miami's favored by only 3.5.
Yeah, that was odd.
Over under 51.5. Have they watched the Lions the last 3 weeks? Last 2 weeks because one was a bye. But what,
I don't know,
Jared-
maybe with Swift
Jared
being
Goff-
back.
Jared Goff took a page out of Marcus Mariota's book the last 2 weeks, or maybe vice versa. I don't know. What are they doing? No, this is ugly. I have Miami winning this decisively. I know that there's pieces of Detroit that are promising, but this is not a game you bounce back from, in my opinion. I don't.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift being back, fine. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Detroit's high scoring was mostly rushing based anyway, so I guess that makes a little sense. Also, he stayed out an extra week. The normal average time frame for this type of injury that he had, his ankle injury for running backs, was 2 to 4 weeks. This is his 5th week since that injury happened, so he will probably be very healthy, and that's a much needed boost because Jamal Williams has not exactly been amazing the last 2 games.
Mm.
Miami's offense is. I say it's. I put in the notes that it's been much better of late, but it's better with Tua. Let's be honest. If it's not Tua, then this becomes a glorified Carolina Panthers. Detroit is lacking just about every category that they were once excelling at to start the season. The injury to Swift probably contributes to 3 or 4 of those categories that matter. The thing that isn't going to change those is atrocious defense for the Detroit Lions. They are still 32nd in just about everything. I want no part of. Well, I would say the defenses entirely. I want no part of, but I don't want any part of these defenses. This is the highest over/under on the slate, 51.5. I would. Do you think that you can safely depend on DeAndre Swift for 70-80% of snaps again this week?
I'm hoping since they gave him that extra week that he will get there won't be a snap count limit, but yeah, I want to say yes.
Okay, I don't hate it. I definitely trust him a lot more in the opposition that is Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, although
Mostert's getting 15 to 18 carries a game, 60, 70 yards, few passing catches. He's a solid RB2, maybe RB3.
Yeah,
That's
he's flex worthy. He's been quietly having a pretty decent season usage, and I mean, I think I read somewhere that Miami, at least from a running back perspective, has one of the better schedules, if I'm not mistaken. But now that I'm looking, that doesn't seem correct. So I'm going to renege on that.
That's good.
They
I
play
don't know.
Buffalo, Chargers, San Francisco. So I don't think
Chargers are not good. Chargers are not good against the rush, but San Francisco and Buffalo are.
Yeah.
Chargers are 22nd, I think, or 24th against the rush. It's not well. Yeah, Detroit in this one should not. I mean, I'd take Miami by touchdown here. I don't see how Detroit can stick. I think Detroit's not going to get shut out from the end zone like Dallas had them last week, but it's just I don't see how this is a 3.5 point only. Maybe there's something I'm. Is there somebody who's out on the offensive line, or is there a defensive key piece that's out for Miami that I'm missing? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as I don't mind the 3.5, but I definitely see what you're saying.
Oh, you know what? It is in Detroit.
Yeah, it's home for Detroit. Swift's back.
That's probably 5.5 to 6 instead of if it's in Miami, it's probably 5.5 to 6 easy. So that makes okay. I'm still gonna take Miami by touchdown.
Oh yeah,
that matters. But
by a touchdown. I don't have the score. I didn't write this one down.
The score for what?
I didn't write a score down for this one. Sometimes I write other ones down, but
oh, it's like this isn't a host v host.
No, it's not a host v host. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Miami in this one. Give me 29-22. Here we go.
I think
Spicy.
I think both teams might be in the 30 range.
You're going
I think
way over.
I'm going over, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Alright,
give
well,
or
if
take a couple
Miami's
points,
defense
but
is if Miami's defense is as holy as it was last, I mean, they weren't bad against the Steelers, but they allowed Kenny Pickett to drive twice in the last 4 minutes. So if it wasn't for a couple mistimed throws, they probably would have lost that game. So, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are still 1A, 1B, lock and load. I don't,
especially with Tua back.
Yeah, we've talked about the combinations in the league that are 1A, 1B, and that's one of them. So I don't have a start or a sit for this game. I really don't. I don't see. You can probably. I think that's mostly because of the score.
I mean, with anybody against Detroit, it's start them all basically.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki, I guess, would be my start. He has not even quietly. He's also another name you have to watch for the trade deadline, because I've heard rumblings that he's being shopped or being inquired about. Also, Alvin Kamara. I forgot about that one.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, the Eagles specifically, which is scary. The Eagles inquired, and the Saints want their first round pick back. That was what I saw earlier this afternoon. So scary. But on this one, Gesicki has had 5 red zone targets the last 3 weeks and caught 3 of them, I think, if I'm correct. So, and had several different targets. Several targets mid game. I mean, he's not
Yeah, he had no touchdowns last week, 2 touchdowns the week before. Was the week before that was without Tua? Tua's first week back was last week, yeah?
Correct. That was
I don't know.
That was Teddy Bridgewater taking over for
Skylar
Thompson.
For some reason with Tua, I don't like Gesicki as much just based on what we've seen so far. He has 1 touchdown so far with Tua.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Moving on, Raiders and Saints. Remember, I just mentioned the Saints. This one, apparently Vegas thinks this is a close game. Raiders are favored by 1.5. The over/under 49. That's usually a recipe for lock and load. Just about everybody. What are the Saints are 2-6?
They are 2-5.
2-5. And the Raiders are
2-4.
2-4. They had a bye week. That's it. All right. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't write any of the records down except for the first game. That was stupid. Josh Jacobs is a freight train. Yep. Lock and load. Do it again. The Saints have allowed is this right? Maybe I didn't write it. Yeah, they've given it. The Saints have allowed the most points this year. Based on points allowed, they are 32nd.
Damn.
Just on points allowed. Now, you said they're 2-5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they haven't had a bye week, so that means last week they surpassed Detroit because Detroit's had a bye.
Yeah.
Cowboys also only put up 24. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, freight train. Keep him going. I don't see any reason to stop. He's getting pass catching work. He's getting outside work. He's getting inside work. He's basically doing everything. So yeah, keep going. All of Las Vegas's receivers are getting work. It's obviously Devontae Adams, but Matt Collins, Hunter Renfrow, fine. Matt Collins had a touchdown last week, so he's still very well in the rotation, with or without Hunter Renfrow, which with now. The one spot that I'm actually concerned about is the tight end for them. I feel like they're just going to more wide receivers and using the tight ends as blockers for Las Vegas. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say if Waller's not playing, it's not that they don't use Moreau, but Waller's just such a better receiving talent.
Yeah, and he's having a stinker of a year. I know. I own him. I'm so much so that he's probably going to play this week, and I'm starting Evan Ingram and Greg Dulcich in the same game. Will it work out? Probably not. Thomas and Landry are absent again. that has to a certain extent be hurting the midfield for New Orleans. I know they're not really showing it. Their offense has been very solid as far as scoring, moving the ball. Looking at you, Juwan Johnson and Chris Olave. But there's the receiver behind Olave is like Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith. They're making it work. Andy Dalton's making it work, which brings me to my next point. They're continuing to roll with Dalton and Winston.
Oh, we lost him again.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
Yeah, it just froze. It froze for you too. It's fine. Life
Okay.
goes on. But why would you go with why would you continue over Dalton over Winston? Is it just the record? Is it the way the team's scoring? Because they haven't won really.
yeah, I don't know.
For a
I
team that
saw-
started 1-0, they've gone
Yeah,
for a team that started 1-0, they've now gone 1-5 in the last 6 games. So
I watched one game with Dalton, and he looked pretty decent at times. He still makes bad decisions, which is the problem. But I think it's tough to say because Winston whips it down the field, but also makes bad decisions. So
right.
I don't know. I guess maybe they like that Dalton is possibly slightly safer. I don't know.
I mean, you watched him last Thursday against the Cardinals, and they lost because he threw back-to-back interceptions.
Right.
So that's the only reason. Yeah, Saints defense is different. They're approaching games much different. This isn't the same defense that Sean Payton had the helm over. So I'm going to start Marquez Callaway this week. Take a stab in the dark. It's really honestly a complete guess between Callaway and Traquan Smith. I'm going to sit the Waller-Moreau combo until one of them does something that's worth a damn. So anything else from you for this one?
I think Olave still has a good game. He's
He lock and load play him. He's
yeah.
yeah.
And then the other rookie, I don't remember his first name, last name, Rashid.
Shaheed.
Yeah,
Rashid
Rashid
Shaheed.
Shaheed. He's been getting some work, but
He's
it's-
big play dependent.
exactly.
So Cardinals at Vikings for our next game. Minnesota 3.5-point favorites. The overall over under is 49, and this is number 2 of
It's time to
Arizona has come to life now that they have DeAndre Hopkins. I know it's only one game, but what about that offense said that they were stopping anywhere? Minnesota is probably the most average 5-1 team I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Just being honest. And the one loss was to the Eagles, who everybody's lost to the Eagles, literally. Arizona blitzes more than any other team. They have 102 blitzes. They only create pressure on like 24% of plays, though, which is less than like 9 other teams. So it's not really working. However, if you do that, it will lead to a lot of yak because you're going to have man coverage, and you do not want to do that against the person who is on the outside this week. Justin Jefferson, who's 5th in yards after catch. He is the 2nd wide receiver out of the entire league in that list. Cooper Kupp being the only one who has 9 yards more in yards after catch. So I think that's going to have to be a little bit restrained on the defensive end. That's almost what makes me like Minnesota. I feel like this is a good frame of attack. You're giving up all of the yards after catch. You have Justin Jefferson, who's a beast. Really can't be guarded in many situations unless he's double covered, and that restricts what you can do in the middle of the field at times. So, also Arizona bleeds yards to tight ends. So, lock and load Irv Smith. I feel it's the opposite for Minnesota, so I'm going to take a stab in the dark. Also, because of the return of Hopkins, Zach Ertz has seen a dip. Only one game, again, small sample size, but I think that's going to continue. So I'm going to sit Ertz this week. Minnesota gives up the 5th most yards per play, 6 yards on an average. So it's not exactly like the big play is foreign to Minnesota either. I'll say big day for Hopkins, I think, which he didn't have a small day last week, but if he does that again, I wouldn't be surprised. Start Irv Smith, start Justin Jefferson, start Rondell Moore, question mark. Eno Benjamin, if Darrell Williams is out, we know James Conner's already out. Both of these quarterbacks fully serviceable. You just might get a stinker from one of them, but I don't think that's going to be the case this week. Over under 49. This game could easily go over.
Yeah.
But all I got from this one. Anything for you? I'm going to take, let me give you my score before I let you. I'm going to take Minnesota in this one, and it hurts. Honestly, it hurts me to say that because this Arizona team looks so good.
After last week, yeah.
It does look. I'm gonna. Yeah, it hurts me. I'm gonna take Minnesota 28-27.
Oh, okay.
1 point.
I don't remember why I ended up with this much of a spread. So I have Arizona 24, Minnesota 29. I don't remember what the thinking was there, but anyways,
It's
one of
really
the-
not much of a spread.
It's not
It
that
looks that
no.
way because I gave you a spread that's 1 point.
Yeah.
So-
No, it's not. It's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, 5 points though. That's more than what Vegas has.
It's true.
One thing I did notice when I was looking at just gathering information for this, the Minnesota outside of the game against the Eagles, their floor for points is 23 and their ceiling is 29. So they're like, to your point, like very mediocre, consistent. They're just kind of strumming along, doing their thing. So I don't see the Eagles really throwing too much of a wrench in that. But on the other
Eagles?
side,
That's
sorry,
because they don't play. Cardinals.
the Cardinals,
The other
birds, the other bird.
Birds.
I don't see them throwing too much of a wrench in that.
Whatever those
yeah,
are. Yeah.
birds. So yeah, I guess the biggest thing here is just whether or not the Cardinals continue to get better with Hopkins back, and Murray runs the ball more and just kind of opens up the offense a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I think the Cardinals are going to win. I think this is going to be a good game.
Yeah. Cardinals give up 101 yards per game on the ground. The Vikings give up 112. I think that 112, the Cardinals will be under. I think the 101, the Vikings will be over because of the difference in quality of running back. Just
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, good scores. So far we are 2-2, 2 out of 2 for our being on the same team. We have picked the same winner. That's boring. That's the way it goes.
I mean, I guess at some point, in order for me to come back, I need to just start taking the other team.
Well, it's you never know. We're gonna keep doing the 5 fantasy flyers for 15 points on host v host. This might be a smaller gap in a couple weeks. We're gonna take our final break here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in the fantasy flyers. I think that's about right. I think I counted. Math was difficult for me. 7 games in the flyers. So gonna turn it up in this last segment. Yeah. Taylor, sign us off. I'm gonna get something to drink. We'll come back. And welcome back to part 3.
Nice. I wasn't sure if I was actually hearing something at first, and then I noticed the beat. Yeah. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Halloween.
I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep tonight.
That's what he wants. Patriots and Jets will be the next game on our week 8 preview. Patriots 2.5 point favorites, over under at 40. I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Because the Jets don't throw the ball and you don't know what's happening with their running backs. Mac Jones is starting again. I think we both covered this. We kind of want to see a bounce back game from him. He's due for it.
Mhm.
So I don't know how bad the Jets running back situation, if it's going to be bad. All in all, this isn't a great defense to jump headfirst into, James Robinson. So best of luck.
I think I read that even though he's active, he's not going to get much usage.
That's smart, I think.
Yeah.
Just to get him, just let him work his way. New England allows the 7th fewest fantasy points to running backs. For New England, Myers is the wide receiver one, but I think based especially like this was your question from the 4 downs, and I think it's a fair one. Is Devontae Parker their wide receiver 2, and can he be the wide receiver 1? And I think the answer is yes to both of those.
Mhm.
Will it happen? Probably not without Jacoby Myers either being double covered or being worth that sort of attention or with an injury. But I like Devontae Parker. I don't hate him as a flyer this week. I don't hate him going forward until something changes. Same really for Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's entered the tight end conversation, which I mean he probably should have been there anyway, because there aren't a whole heck of a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
But he's been doing solid last couple weeks. Ramondre Stevenson outcarried the returning Damian Harris on Monday night, and he outplayed him actually. He was not even Damian Harris saw the field like 3 times, and they were like, "That's good. We'll see you next week." Stevenson, keep him going. I almost want to say this is the Patriots preparing for Damian Harris's departure at the end of the year.
Yeah, that was sort of my question, wondering as well, like, is it that, or I mean, I also wonder how much they were sort of just like, you're coming back from an injury, we don't want to push it. So I
Yeah.
think this game will really answer that question.
The New York Jets defense is good at creating pressure, but their offense is good at creating third and outs. Zach Wilson doesn't throw the ball. I don't understand. They are heavily run dependent. They're going to have to change something this week. They're going to have to change something going forward. You could probably safely rely on Brees Hall to get you out of some situations. He's no longer there. Neither of these people are Brees Hall. But that being said, as much as New England allows the 7th fewest fantasy points to running backs, they're dead last in pass yards per attempt at over 10 per attempt to running backs, and they're also 30th in DVOA to running backs. My conclusion to that is, which we already covered, is sit Robinson, so don't play him this week. But you can actually probably start Carter with some faith. He's been the pass down back most of the year, 3/4 of the year at minimum.
Yeah.
So I'm starting Michael Carter. I'm going to sit the rest of the Jets not named Elijah Moore, believe it or not, because he is supposedly going to play.
I'm hopeful with Garrett Wilson. I would probably
no Corey
take him
Davis,
over
so
Moore.
either one's really. I'm not a huge fan of Tyler Conklin this week. He's saw a good amount of targets against Denver last week, but I don't trust that again to repeat. Middle of the field for New England is pretty tight. So I either Moore or Wilson. I'm more on the Moore side just because he has more to prove. But Garrett Wilson has also seen a steady stream of 4 to 6 targets, so I don't hate that. And I'm going to take New England in this one still. I think it's going to go under, though, just because both these defenses seem to be halfway decent at the line. Well,
yeah.
Good at the line. Next game, Titans and Texans. We're going to go through this one quickly because it's pretty straightforward. It's Derrick Henry. Malik. Oh, my God. That was so bad. Malik Willis versus Davis Mills. Turn that M for Mills upside down to W for Wumbo. Tannehill is probably, I think I saw that he was likely out. You have him as questionable. Malik Willis took first team reps yesterday and today.
Okay.
So they're preparing for Malik Willis to fumble. I mean, be the quarterback. It's not an intriguing matchup. I don't like, if Brandon Cooks is out by, I don't like Robert Woods. I don't like Austin Hooper. I don't like anybody for Tennessee. If it's not Derrick Henry, stay away from it. That's basically his last 4 games. He's averaged 224 yards per game against Houston. 212, 220, 224, and 250 or 248 or something disgusting. I'm in the realm, but yeah, like Tennessee's 2.5 point favorites at an over under of 40.5. The one thing I will say, Dameon Pierce is 6th RB6 in yardage, so he's in the play conversation too.
I was just gonna say, yeah, basically the 2 running backs from either team is really all I would want.
Yeah, that's it. Anything you want to talk about? This is, yeah, I feel like, no, yeah, that's good. All right. This is the equivalent of being forced to sleep in a wet sleeping bag. Giants and Seahawks is the next game, and Seattle is a 3-point favorite. Over under is 44.5. And this is the third and final of our host.
It's time to
We'll start off on the Seattle side. DK Metcalf is questionable. Tyler Lockett is a game time decision, but he's also been a game time decision the last 3 weeks. The only thing we know is DK Metcalf's actually injured. I don't know if he'll play. If he doesn't, I'm super high on Marquise Goodwin. Also, both of these running backs, Saquon Barkley and Kenneth Walker, should be like the first person you lock in your lineup. Seattle is very porous to running backs, and Saquon Barkley is a bulldozer. So, what did I put? Kenneth Walker versus a shaky run defense. I don't know if I tried to say shaky or chalky. I wrote it. Yeah, that's a tough word. Anyway, Giants have been decent versus quarterbacks through all of this, through everything. They held Lamar Jackson under right around 200 yards, actually. They're doing well in these quarterback-based matchups. This is another one. Geno Smith leads the league in completion percentage. He finds his targets very well when he's not throwing. The run game throws a lot of teams off, especially the outside runs, which Kenneth Walker's been excelling just about everywhere. So it's not just that. But also, I'm verbally signing the petition to give Kenneth Walker his yard back. So in the middle of the week, they turned Kenneth Walker's stat line from 168 to 167, and I don't know why it took 4 days for that to happen. Anyway, with no Bellinger or Galladay, I like Wandale a lot this week. I like Slayton a lot this week. I like Chris Mayarick, surprisingly, because Seattle, just like it was against Gerald Everett, it seems like Mayarick seems to be their tight end now. He played 40% of snaps after Bellinger left. Also, fast heal time to Daniel Bellinger, who had eye socket surgery and is out for 4 to 6 weeks. I like this game a lot. I don't necessarily agree with Seattle being a 3-point favorite, especially if Metcalf is out. I know there's 2 dependable offenses here. I am forced to start because Patrick Mahomes is on bye and Matt Ryan was relegated to sitting at home and getting paid millions of dollars. That I'm forced to start Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones this week, which is kind of like driving a car that has 4 flat tires. So, not to say that Daniel Jones has been bad, but Kenny Pickett against Philadelphia, like, just shoot me now. Yeah, I like Goodwin if Metcalf is out. I'm gonna say for my own sanity, start Daniel Jones, but this could be the week that he scores 8 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So, start Slayton. Also, Tyler Lockett, who the Giants are 7th worst versus deep balls. I mean, by deep balls, any pass more than 20 yards. Tyler Lockett has 6 of those this year. So, 5 of those, excuse me. It's a good game for me. I'm going to take the upset here. I'm going to take the Giants just because they seem to find ways to win on both sides of the football. I'm going to take Giants 24, Seahawks 20.
Okay. I also went Giants, Giants 27, Seahawks 21. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. The Giants defense is pretty solid. And they've actually been designing run plays for Daniel Jones. Like between him, Barkley, and Wandale, that's like basically Slayton, I guess, is there. They're just their wide receiving options are very hurting. So they've figured something out with Jones and obviously having Barkley put the team on his back. And Seattle is an easy team to score against, like just behind the Lions. So I'm favoring the Giants in this to continue to get it done. I mean, they're what, a 5-1 team. They are finding ways to win, like you said. They're a 6-1 team.
6-1, yeah. And they're doing it. They're the only team in the league that does not have a wide receiver with more than 200 yards.
I mean, they don't have any wide receivers, so that makes sense.
No, they do. They just keep recycling them.
Yeah.
Slayton, I think will eclipse that this game. I think he has 160 or something, 150. But yeah. What was your score? Did you say your score? You cut
I
out for a
did.
minute.
Yes.
What-
Giants 27, Seattle 21.
Okay. All right.
There was to the Giants, to the point about the Giants defense, who is actually pretty solid outside of your point about their deep ball. It looks like against the tight end is their biggest weakness, where they're currently ranked 24th or 23rd, I think.
Yeah, pick the tight end who's going to succeed this week from Seattle.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is with Seattle, it's like
Is it Will
that-
Dissly?
yeah.
Honestly, I think it's down to Dissly or Fant. Like that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I traded Noah Fant this past week in that running back trade I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Which I think I like that trade. Maybe others won't, but yeah, if you can't pick between it. Will Dissly had the week last week. Noah Fant was the week before. Like, there's no trustworthiness there. So
Yeah, they have almost exactly the same snap percentages over the past few weeks. So yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of a 50-50 between them.
right. Yeah. Moving on. Commanders at the Colts, Indianapolis, 3-point favorites, over under 39.5. Sam Ellinger versus Taylor Heineke. What? Good God. This is it's not fun. If
No.
yeah, no, there's nothing. I want nothing of this in a fantasy aspect. I want to see which of these teams does anything. If you're not Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is my one exception because he's the only person in this game who has played with his quarterback. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Curtis Samuel had the same amount of targets as him last week, but they were not as, oh, I trust you to go get this. You know? And that might change this week, but I'm taking a break from Curtis Samuel. De'Ami Brown is questionable. If he doesn't play, there's definitely not a third wide receiver for Washington that I like.
Yeah,
Paris,
Dotson being out.
right. Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce. I mean, Michael Pittman, maybe. I feel like Ellinger has to know that you're your wide receiver one.
Mm.
I would be interested to see if the rookie connection, the youth connection there, Alec Pierce and Sam Ellinger,
I was wondering the same thing.
blossoms. Yeah. So, but for now, I just traded away Alec Pierce.
Oh, did you?
Yes, that was. Did you not? You didn't see the trade?
I did not know.
Okay, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Devin Duvernay, Zay Jones, and Tyler Conklin. I traded away Alec Pierce, Noah Fant, two fifth-round picks, one this year, one in 2025, and I traded another player away, Drake Jackson, I think, the defensive end from San Francisco, and that's simply because I don't have room to play him. That's it. My defense is so good. But yeah, that was so I traded away Alec Pierce. I took the gamble. He was very good. I feel like without Matt Ryan, can Sam Ellinger really throw 43 times, 45 times in a game?
Right.
That was the question that I asked myself. Like, you can develop him all you want, and Alec Pierce may be great next year, but I'm third in our league right now, and out of 10, like I'm in the playoffs solidly right now. I need to make a stand, and I need a running back for it, especially with Brees going down. So
yeah.
But all to the point. This is all to say, nothing in this game intrigues me. McLaurin is the only option. Jonathan Taylor, I feel like just to find rhythm with the offense, I feel like he might get a few extra carries. Not like he needs them, but he needs to do more with them. It's a good game to expand the offense into a new territory. My prediction is that it still won't go well for Indianapolis. I don't know if they've seen the offensive line, but the quarterback don't control that. I'll say that for the second show in a row. Brian Robinson is the lead back, it seems, for Washington. It's good to note that. Also, Shaq Leonard is playing, so thumbs down to everybody who's running the ball for Washington. I have no starts and no sits because they're all sits. Anything else from this one for you?
I mean, I'm hoping JT maybe becomes like a safety net for Ellinger, dump offs, whatever. So we'll see
Or
if he,
Nyheim Hines. Hines is back, right?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be Hines. I'm just personally hoping it's JT.
But well, yes, for fantasy reasons.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised to see Ellinger throw for 180 yards, have a touchdown and 2 or 3 interceptions, and like a 50% completion percentage. I would not be surprised.
yeah.
Because the
I mean,
problem isn't the quarterback, and it's just that's that I'm still relying on that. Even if they have these two teams, their quarterbacks for these two teams have been sacked more than any other team. These are the two team leaders for sacks.
yeah. I will say that Ellinger is a bit of a mobile quarterback, so that I mean, he obviously, this is what, his first start, his second season. Like, he hasn't had much experience at the NFL level, so we'll see how it plays out. But maybe that benefits him and what he's able to do, and hopefully the team.
Yeah. Keep an eye out also as well for I don't think it's this week. I think it's next week. Chase Young is expected to be back for Washington,
Yes.
who is coming back from a torn ACL, and that is a force to be reckoned with. So
Hmm.
moving along in the next game, 49ers and the Rams. San Francisco favored by 1.5 points, over under 42.5. Before they had CMC, they were favored by like 3 points, and they won by like 20. So it wasn't quite that much, but they won. And I'm going to take San Francisco again in this game and by more than 1.5. I don't even think this will be close. Is this the end of Jeff Wilson? Your opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's basically like an 80-20 CMC now to anybody else. Debo's out. Ayuk is up. I like Juwan. Is it Juwan Jennings? No. Juwan? Yeah.
That
Juwan
sounds right.
Jennings? Yeah, Juwan Jennings. Juwan Johnson is the one for the Saints. There's two Juwans and they both have J last names. He's next up. I'm confident in saying he'll get a few targets. He's done well in the past, especially with Jimmy G. Jimmy G and him, they go way back. Rams offense is struggling. It's mostly Matthew Stafford and that offensive line, and now that offensive line is going to get worse because there's no Joe Noteboom for the rest of the year. And I hope that they find someone to block on that side. I don't really have anything else to. That's where Drake Jackson sits actually on that side. So would not be surprised to see him have a sack this week. It'd be good for the youngin. Henderson still the running back. Cam Akers is throwing his hissy fit and is in timeout. Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee perfectly fine. I don't know if I trust anyone other than Cooper Kupp really. Higbee you can because he's a top 10 tight end in my opinion. Both teams allow 159 yards per game to wide receivers. That's total. So 110 yards to Cooper Kupp, and then the rest of them you got 40 yards to figure it out. So they are first and third respectively. First San Francisco's first, and the Rams are third in points to RBs. I'm still locking and loading CMC. He can beat just about any team. So it just gives me a little bit of tendency on Darrell Henderson. So start Ayuk, start Jennings. I'm going to sit Henderson for that reason. Anything else from this game? I like the 49ers. I like what their defense has done. I know Jimmy G isn't the most spectacular quarterback. I know they're missing Debo. You still have George Kittle. You have
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
say,
reasons to be happy. You have a lot of reasons to be happy in San Francisco.
yeah, with Debo out, Kittle's also probably a good play. And then as far as Juwan Jennings goes, he is apparently questionable, hamstring. And Ray McLeod actually had a pretty decent game last week in like garbage time or whatever. So that
That'd be
may be
next.
yeah.
Him and Danny Gray, right?
Danny Gray was coach's decision. Did not play. Actually, why do I that's old. Okay. Yeah, he did play. He had 2 targets but didn't catch any.
Yeah. So Ray McLeod is the next step if Juwan can't go. So.
Yeah.
Is that all for you? Anything else you add? I don't like this Rams team at all. I mean, I'll stick
Yeah,
on
that's
that
what I
right
was gonna
this
say
second.
is hopefully with the bye week, maybe they've come out, they've figured some stuff, but yeah, I'm not they haven't looked great outside of Cooper Cup. I'm hoping when Kyron Williams comes
Williams,
back that maybe,
RB2.
yeah, maybe he starts getting something going for their ground game, but we'll see.
Indeed. Next up, Packers, Bills, Sunday Night Football. Buffalo 11-point favorites. The over/under is 47. There's no Alan Lazard. There's no Randall Cobb. Christian Watson is questionable. Romeo Dobbs hasn't been targeted much the last 2 weeks. I'm locking and loading Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
They're gonna have to throw this ball. Like I understand Jones was a great pass catcher out of the backfield last week. AJ Dillon saw some absolute garbage. You have to throw this ball, and the only person there, and the good news is the person who has some good speed, Sammy Watkins. Like you got it. I don't see anyone who else you can throw it to. Robert Tunyon, yeah, okay. Aaron Jones. Make those three like your first three progressions, and hopefully one of them's open because Aaron Rodgers don't run really. But other than that, I see why the Bills are huge favorites in this. The Packers have looked worse and worse every single week. They lost to the Commanders last week. Another reason why I think Indiana loses this week because the team ain't no different. But I think the Packers are a lot better than the Colts are.
Yeah.
So the Bills have different ways of moving the ball, and I feel like this is a week where they can kind of show that off. The deep ball, you're taking on Adrian Amos, you're taking on Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander likely will be on Stephon Diggs, which is a very high-profile matchup. Gabe Davis will probably be perfectly fine monitoring his 2 to 8 catches for between 12 and 3,000 yards this
Yeah.
game. Just depending on if Josh Allen wants to throw it that deep. But other than that, I actually like Devin Singletary in this game.
Yeah.
And he's been nowhere this year, it seems. Almost nowhere to be found. Specifically the last like 2-3 games. But I like Devin Singletary in this matchup. I don't see any reason to shy away from him. I think that this is a good opportunity for this team's the Packers are going to come in and expect them to chuck it and just probably prop themselves up on like cover 4, cover 6s, leave the middle of the field clogged up, but they'll be 10 yards deep. And that's my prediction. Could it go the exact opposite way? Of course. Of course it will. But yeah, running short plays built for that yak, building that yak. Dawson Knox, another one. Why not? I wouldn't be surprised to see Reggie Gilliam have a couple. Isaiah McKenzie, sure, why not? But I feel like the big names may actually be what Green Bay targets to try and take out of this offense, and it would be smart, but I don't think it's going to work. Do you think AJ Dillon comes back into the kind of 50-50 we saw 2 weeks ago?
I don't. I don't think they can afford to. He's not much of a pass catcher, and I don't think they like unless it's a close game, which I don't expect it to be too close.
Yeah,
I don't see how Dylan is a big part of what they're doing. It's going to be Jones. It's going to be Watkins. I mean, if Christian Watson is out, Dobbs has to be a part of the offense to a degree, but he had a ton of drops.
Yeah. That's a fact. That's a big point too. He just hasn't been involved. Doesn't mean he can't be. So
right.
But yeah, I agree with you. Green Bay will probably. I feel like they're going to be trailing. I feel like best case scenario for Green Bay is they beat the spread.
Right.
They beat the 11-point spread here, and they end up losing by between 7 and 10.
Yeah. But I do like Singletary. I guess my only hesitation is coming out of the bye week is James Cook more involved. But before the bye week, he was like under 20% snap share and
under blowout circumstances, he could easily see
that's
35-40% because you get up if you get up if that's the game script and they're up by 3 touchdowns, he's going to play.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is Singletary going into the bye week had 17 attempts, 85 yards, and honestly had 5 targets, 4 receptions. So that's pretty good usage.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Singletary on this one. He's my start. AJ Dillon is my sit. I agree with everything you said. I feel like Aaron Jones has just been better. You got no pass catching for Dillon. you don't. This isn't a team you got to pound the ball against because you're not looking for 4 yards. You need 40.
Right.
So that's not AJ Dillon again. Green Bay is 15th in passing yards, 16th in rushing yards, 18th in yards allowed per play. They allow 139 yards per game to the running back. All of it points to Singletary.
Yep.
Last game on the slate, the Monday Night Football game, Bengals at the Browns, a battle of Ohio. Cincinnati is favored by 3 points, over under at 45. There's no Jamar Chase in this, which means an exceptional boost to Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. I didn't write T. Higgins' name, but I meant to write his name. Jamar Chase had a slow start, right? Last 3 weeks been lighting it up. Goes out with injury now. Would you be surprised if I told you that Higgins and Boyd are the wide receiver 20 and 21 in yards this year?
Actually, I wouldn't be, because Higgins is like, this is another 1A, 1B with Chase. Maybe not as apparent, but Higgins is pretty consistently right there with Chase, like every other week having a good week, and then Boyd every 3 weeks is like going off. So I'm not too,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me that much.
Oh, good, because that's the way it works. That's how it is. They are wide receiver 20 and 21 in yardage this year, and they see like 15 to 20 snaps between the two of them more when he's out. There's less rotation. They're there almost every play. Tyler Boyd, on average, sees like 30 yards more a game when Jamar Chase doesn't play. So another big name in this one for me with Jamar Chase, with Jamar Chase being out, is Hayden Hurst. I know you said he's questionable. He was questionable last week, played. I'm going to say the same thing. He's followed a very similar practice path through the week. I think he plays again. There's no reason to believe that this defense is stopping a whole heck of a lot, this Cleveland defense. So go for it. Hayden Hurst, 2 to 3 extra receptions. That puts him in like an 8 reception, 60, 70 yard category. You could see, and if one of them falls for a touchdown, you're looking at a 20 point tight end. So I'm putting Hayden Hurst in my fantasy lineups if I have him. For the other side, for Cleveland, this should be a return for Nick Chubb. The one thing Cincinnati does is disallow completions. They're still first in the league in the lowest completion percentage for opposing quarterbacks. Nick Chubb here should be able to, especially with no David Njoku, he should be able to balance a little more on Nick Chubb, especially if Kareem Hunt gets traded between now and Sunday morning, which is all too plausible, unfortunately. Bengals in fifth are fifth in points allowed to QB and wide receiver, which is interesting to note because they don't have a lot of completions. So I thought that was an interesting stat. Fantasy points, that is. Not real points, but fantasy points. Chubb has been held under 100 yards to each of his last 2 games. They lost both those games. It's like a really good barometer of whether you're defending this team well. Is if Nick Chubb doesn't have a bunch of time in the pocket, or a bunch of time to run, I should say. I'm going to start Hayden Hurst. I'm going to sit Donovan Peoples-Jones. I feel like Amari Cooper's at the point where you kind of have to play him. They're looking at him between 6 and 12 times a game. He's going to catch at least 3 of them. I feel like his floor is in the 10-point range, in my opinion. So I'm gonna start Hayden Hurst for his increased role. Tyler Boyd too. Those are 2. Like, I really like them. Donovan Peoples-Jones. You can also probably add Harrison Bryant to that list of starts. I feel like if you had an absolute dart throw, I'd be starting Irv Smith before him. But that would be my take. Anything from this one on you? I'm going to take the Bengals by like 7 in this one as well. I see a
By
lot better
7?
Bengals team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot better Bengals team the last 2 weeks than I see the Browns team.
Yeah. I think as far as Donovan Peoples-Jones and Harrison Bryant, I think it's one of those guys is going to have a decent game because of Njoku being out. But as for which one, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, and that's fair. Real quick before we move on to our 5 fantasy flyers, I'm going to check and see. There was someone else who had a couple catches last week. Oh, it's not been that much. It's basically those 2, isn't it? Yep. Bell played 57% of snaps last week, 63 the week before. Hasn't been getting a lot of targets this way, so that could be someone else who benefits from Njoku being out.
Yeah.
Anything else from this one, or are we done with our week 8 preview?
I think we're done.
All right, we got about 7 minutes for our fantasy flyers. After going through the whole slate, I have my 5. If you don't have 5, but I'll give you my 5 right now.
I do. I might change some. So why don't you
Okay,
kick us
I'll go
off?
first. So my first fantasy flyer is Marquez Callaway. I'm going to take a little bit more of the deep. Raiders seem to be very focused on taking away number ones. They did it to Brandon Cooks last week. 2 weeks ago, they were very content on locking down Mike Williams at some point. So I'm going to take, with Chris Olave being the number 1, I'm going to take the number 2 in speed specifically. I take Marquez Callaway. Number 2, Hayden Hurst. We just talked about him. I don't have any reason not to play Hayden Hurst. If he's out, I'll take the L, I guess, on that one. I guess because number 3 is Irv Smith for me, so I can't really plug and play Irv Smith for him. So I'm going with the two tight end lineup for the 5 fantasy flyers. And that's just because Arizona bleeds yards, like I said, to the tight end. I feel like he could have a good, 4 or 5 catches, 40 yards. He sneaks in the touchdown. Great. Number 4, Sammy Watkins. We just talked about that as well. He has the speed. He has the experience. He seems to be, other than Romeo Dobbs and Ron Batunyan, he seems to be next in line for Aaron Rodgers' trust. So I'll take Sammy Watkins on probably a boom bust realistically, but still going to take him. And my number 5 is Tyler Boyd. The danger here of going with 2 players in my fantasy flyers who are both on the same team.
Yeah.
But Tyler Boyd sees a huge uptick when Jamar Chase is out. Last week we saw that they both could coexist. Granted, Joe Burrow threw for almost 500 yards, which probably won't happen this week. But one of them gets another touchdown, and it probably saves my flyer list. I'm going with those as my 5 fantasy flyers. And I'll pass it along to you for your 5.
All right. I have Garrett Wilson, as we talked about in one of the earlier matchups, Jets versus Pats. Now without Breece Hall, they gotta move the ball somehow. And I think that the fact that Moore hasn't practiced as consistently with Zach Wilson, that Garrett Wilson will see some bump here outside of Michael Carter, which I don't think Michael Carter, in my opinion, qualifies as a flyer. Khalil Shakir. I wanted to go Wandale here, but I also think he no longer really qualifies as a flyer. So Khalil Shakir for the Bills, a rookie that is seeing an uptick and I think may take over as the number 3 over Isaiah McKenzie. I'm gonna go Latavius Murray. I think he still fits in the flyer category because we're not sure sort of what's happening there in terms of like Melvin Gordon and him. And Boone being out and the good matchup against Jacksonville and running. I like that.
You don't recognize the threat from Marlon Mack?
Yeah. The guy that's been on like 6 teams this year. Tony,
That's a good one. That's a good
yeah.
one.
Tony Pollard, another name I would have loved to put in here, but I do not feel qualifies as a flyer this week.
No.
Who else I have? I definitely have Tyler Boyd. And then my last one, I am between Harrison Bryant and Irv Smith. I'll stick with my original Harrison Bryant, but Irv Smith is probably gonna have a better game.
You don't know. Just takes one red zone target to turn it all around. So you have Garrett Wilson, Khalil Shakir, which, by the way, I love both of those. Garrett Wilson, a lot of people are probably off of this week. I agree with your assessment that they need to find a different way to move the ball.
Right.
I don't think I really agree with Michael Carter not being a flyer.
No.
But I didn't put it. No, I don't, because there's still.
I mean,
well, okay. This week, maybe.
Who else is gonna? Yeah, this week.
This
but
week, maybe. This
yeah.
week, maybe, because there's going to be nobody else. Hey, you cannot forget about Tyler Johnson. Okay. And you could very well see him take over some pass catching. He's not foreign to popping up out of nowhere and having a touchdown on 6 catches. But I like Khalil Shakir and Garrett Wilson. Latavius Murray, full flyer. He's gonna have to probably find Pater to make it worth it, but he very well could. He's been getting those carries. We talked about Tyler Boyd and Harrison Bryant. Go for him. Of course, Marquez Callaway. If Hayden Hurst is out, I'll pick Darius Slayton.
Okay.
That one.
Yep.
That one. If he's out, so that'll be my swap. If he's not out, I'm taking Hayden Hurst. Irv Smith, Sammy Watkins, Tyler Boyd as well for me. So it's really, well, we both picked Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
So it's really the 4 fantasy years. That's wrong. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of the Fantasy Flyer. This is episode 16 in the books. We're gonna be back on Tuesday, like I said, with our trade deadline show. Trade deadline is at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. We're gonna have a very deep show plan to write on Tuesday, so that'll be nice and fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this. My name is Derek Taylor. Give him a nice wave.
What's up, y'all?
Bob Barker reminding you.
Best of luck. Peace out, and happy birthday, Derek.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Birthday was
everybody.
yesterday. Hopefully, it's gonna be a better one this weekend. But
Well,
yeah,
the
you
party.
guys. Yeah. Anyway. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.